Okay. Yeah, bring it up when you get the chat, and we can talk for a second now.
Good evening and welcome. The time is now 6 p.m. It is May 19th, 2025, and it's a legislative session of the Salisbury City Council. In the event of an emergency, please remain calm and exit through the double doors you came in, make a right, and proceed to the stairwell. If the hallway is blocked, then exit to your left, around the corner, and down the stairs. Please do not use the elevator, and let us know if you need any assistance. At this time, we ask that everyone please silence your cell phones, and Councilwoman Jackson will not be joining us today in person or via Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
We do ask that now Councilwoman DeShield lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have Pastor Oculate from Jesus House Eastern Shore here today? Okay, not seeing him. We'll take a brief moment of silence. Thank you. We'll pivot to the mayor's office for a proclamation for EMS Week.
This is for Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical service is a vital public service and the City of Salisbury is committed to ensuring the safety and security of its citizens, and whereas the members of the City of Salisbury Emergency Medical Services are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and others out of the hospital medical care providers, and whereas the members of the City of Salisbury Emergency Medical Service, where career or volunteers engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continued education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Randolph J. Taylor, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, do hereby proclaim May 19th to May 25th, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week.
Coming to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Just a few words on behalf of the 100-plus career and volunteer EMS clinicians that we have working and volunteering for the Salisbury Fire Department. I just want to say thank you to the Mayor's office. Thank you to Council for your support. We respond to about 13,000 EMS calls a year. And we have some of the best EMS clinicians in the state working and volunteering for us. So our community and our citizens can be proud and sleep safe. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, for recognizing that, and thank you, Chief Frampton, and your team for what you do. At this time, we'll pivot to our City Clerk, Miss Julie English, to review tonight's agenda.
The agenda this evening, we have a couple of consent agenda items. We have several award of bids and a Tier 6 change order, one resolution, several ordinances, public comment, and then adjournment.
Thank you, Ms. English. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any proposed amendments or changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye, and the agenda is adopted. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Ms. English?
There are 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. They are manufacturing exemptions for equipment purchased in 2022 and 2023, both for Pepsi Bottling Ventures, LLC.
Thank you, Ms. English. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The consent agenda has been approved. Thank you. This time, we will pivot to Contract Specialist Michael Lowe from the Office of Procurement for a few award of bids. Good afternoon, Mr. Lowe.
Good afternoon, Council President. Members of the council, how are you?
Good evening.
So this evening, I have 3 items for award of bids of new contracts and a Tier 6 change order related to paleo water treatment filter replacement. The Department of Procurement seeks award of bid approval from the Salisbury City Council for the following solicitations. The city followed the required bidding practices as defined in the Salisbury Charter and the Municipal Code of Ordinances. Publicly posted the solicitations for the city's competitively bid procurements on the City of Salisbury's procurement portal, Planet Bids, and the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. So the first contract is RFP A25106. This is hydrogeologist services for the Department of Waterworks. This service provides comprehensive hydrogeological services related to the city's wells and water infrastructure, and also well redevelopments. Proposal was posted in February on the 13th. We opened on March 18th. We had 2 responses. The highest ranked responsible and responsive vendor is WSP USA Inc. And the 3-year estimated cost is $140,000, utilizing the accounts in the packet. The second item on award of bids is RFP A25107, financial auditing services for the Department of Finance. Provides professional financial auditing services for fiscal years 2025 through 2028. We released the proposal in February 13th. Proposals were due on March 17th. We had a total of 5 respondents. The highest ranked company was SB and Company LLC out of Owings Mills, Maryland. Total cost for those 4 fiscal year audits, $137,500, and the GL accounts vary by department. And the third contract is ITB A25113. This is citywide uniforms and facility supplies. It's a citywide contract predominantly used between field ops, wastewater treatment plant, and utilities. Provides purchasing and rental of various uniform garments and facility supplies. This is a cooperative procurement utilizing Sourcewell contract 011124-UFC. The contract maturity date is March 25th, 2028, and contains 3 additional renewals. So the span could go to 2031. 3-year estimated cost for the uniforms across those departments listed is $135,000. And under City of Salisbury Charter SC 16-3, General Policy for Competitive Bidding Exceptions states that competitive bidding is not necessary or appropriate in the following circumstances. The contract in which the city receives a contract price negotiated by the state, county, or other governmental entity pursuant to a valid contract. As a service, Sourcewell is a local government unit, public corporation, and public agency pursuant to the Minnesota Constitution and enabling law noted in the packet. and the city is a Salisbury participating agency. Our account number is 2425. And the last item I have on the award of bids is a change order related to RFP 21-107. This is a paleo water treatment filter replacement for the Department of Waterworks. This was originally bid in 2021. The original date of award was in August of 21. The original contract value was $296,737. The new contract value with this change order is $766,737. This change order encompasses project management for bench scale testing for PFAS removal at the Paleo Water Plant. You probably remember this from the last agenda. There was a change order of roughly $28,000, and these services are needed to complement that for the reporting. And they're funded through the GL account noted in the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Council, any questions?
None.
None?
No, I know we've been talking about this for a long time, so it's filters, and we're ready for it. Bring it on.
All right, seeing no questions or changes, I will entertain a motion to approve the 3 award of bids and the 1 Tier 6 change order as presented by Mr. Lowe.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please, all those in favor of the award bid and the Tier 6 change order, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye, and they have been awarded. Thank you, Mr. Lowe.
Thank you, Council
Yes.
President.
Thank you.
This time we'll pivot to our resolutions. Ms. English, I believe you have a note.
Yes. So at the May 12th, 2025 meeting, there was a resolution numbered 3395 for the appointment of Brad Phillips to the Zoo Commission. We are not changing anything to the actual resolution. We are, however, changing the resolution number from 3395 to 3400.
Thank you, Ms. English, for that correction and for reading that for the record. I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number 3399.
So moved. Second.
Ms. English.
Resolution number 3399 is a resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, adopting a capital improvement plan for the 5-year period beginning fiscal year 2026 and ending fiscal year 2030.
Are there any questions or discussion from the council?
No. None.
Motion on the floor is to approve resolution number 3399. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. Resolution number 3399 is adopted. This time we'll pivot to our ordinances. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2933 for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Boucher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ordinance number 2933, this is before you for second reading, and it is an ordinance approving a budget amendment of the FY 2025 general fund budget to appropriate funds to the Salisbury Fire Department's operating budget after the city has been reimbursed $1,863.05 from insurance proceeds for repairs to the Assistant Chief's vehicle. There's been no changes or amendments since first reading.
Are there any questions or discussion from the council? Motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2933. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes and ordinance number 2933 is adopted. This time I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2934 for second reading.
So moved. Second.
Ordinance number 2934, this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Department of Housing and Community Development for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $250,000 to authorize the mayor to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Railroad Avenue Investments, LLC, and to approve a budget amendment to the grant fund to appropriate the aforementioned funds to be used for eligible expenses associated with the Union Railway Station Stabilization Project. Again, before you for second reading. There have been no changes or amendments.
Are there any questions or discussion from the council?
No. I would just like to reiterate that, in fact, when we accept this money, we have an agreement, we have the purpose and the understanding of what the expenditures will be, correct? And that,
Yeah.
that the mayor's office agrees with this contract?
Yeah, so for that one specifically, the short answer is yes.
So I just, as we go forward, I just want to be absolutely sure. This is really going to be a great asset to the city and a great redevelopment, and I cannot wait to see that train station redone. This is very exciting.
Questions or discussion? Motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2934. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes, and ordinance number 2934 is adopted. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2938 for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2938, this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Maryland State Arts Council for the purpose of accepting grant funds and the amount of $5,000, and to approve a budget amendment to the grant fund to appropriate these funds for expenses associated with strengthening collaborative efforts between Maryland-based touring artists and the Maryland Folk Festival. Before you for first reading, there's been no changes or amendments since presentation at work session.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
Just love to
Forward
see
to it.
money coming to the folk festival.
Absolutely. Motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2938. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye, and ordinance number 2938 is approved. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2939 for first reading.
So moved. Second.
Ordinance number 2939, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Title Health for the purpose of accepted sub-granted funds in the amount of $74,740 to be used for partial salary and benefits of the Swift Community Paramedic. Before you for first reading.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
No, this is just nice that the city participates with this and how beneficial it's been to us.
Yes, very much so.
Motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2939. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes, and ordinance 2939 is approved. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2940 for first reading.
So moved. Second.
Ordinance number 2940, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Department of Natural Resources Waterway Improvement Fund grant for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $2,156, and to approve a budget amendment to the grant fund to appropriate these funds for the Salisbury Fire Department. Before you for first reading.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
None.
Hearing none, the motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2940. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Ordinance number 2940 is approved. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2941 for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2941, approving a budget amendment of the FY 2025 general fund budget to appropriate $6,141.38 to the Salisbury Fire Department operating budget after the city received that same amount, $6,141.38, in proceeds generated from the auction sale of surplus heart monitors. Before you for first reading.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
No, I just enjoy the savviness of the fire department. Thank you for looking out for that and bringing that back to us, those monies back to us.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2941. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Ordinance 2941 is approved. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2942 for first reading.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2942, this is an ordinance also approving a budget amendment of the FY 2025 general fund budget to appropriate $18,984.60 to the Salisbury Fire Department's operating budget after the city received that same amount, $18,984.60, and proceeds generated from the auction sale of portable radios and accessories. Before you for first reading.
Any questions or discussion from the council? The motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 2942. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Ordinance 2942 is approved. Thank you, Ms. Boucher. At this time, we will pivot to the public comments portion of the agenda. Again, those wishing to speak may enter the podium. If you wouldn't mind just stating your name and if you are a city resident, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. I don't see the timer up there, but you do. You can see the timer from Mr. Kitzrow's computer. If not,
We're all good.
How's everybody tonight? Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of the City Council. My name is Justin Schaub, and I'm here to speak tonight on behalf of Brew River Land. Okay, I would like to express our serious concerns regarding the Marina Landing project, specifically the parking lot agreement for Lot 1AA, which we believe violates our existing contract with the City of Salisbury. In 1999, as you all know, Frank Hanna entered into an agreement with the city to develop Brew River Restaurant at its current location. And let me remind everyone, that commitment from Mr. Hanna was during a very difficult period of time for downtown Salisbury. As part of our agreement, the city committed to developing and maintaining the adjacent parking lot 1AA for the restaurant's use. Our deed explicitly grants Brew River Land use of the lot and mandates that the city maintain 114 parking spaces in perpetuity, provided that the property remains a restaurant and is not vacant for more than 24 months. A few years ago, the city entered into an agreement with the developers of the Marina Landing project, granting them the same exact parking lot rights outlined in our deed. When Mr. Hanna discovered this breach of our agreement and deed, he raised the issue with then Mayor Jake Day. The mayor assured him that the conflicting language would be removed from the contract. Regrettably, we later learned this was not done. Each week, we have a shortage of parking to adequately serve our guests at Brew River. There are not enough parking spaces nearby for our volume. If this project ultimately is finished, the already problematic parking situation will irreversibly damage our operation. Not only will it lead to large sales reductions, most importantly, it will lead to layoffs of our valued team members. After consulting with a local attorney, we believe the city has violated our long-standing agreement. Our attorney has submitted a draft complaint to the mayor's office outlining our position, and I trust that all of you have a copy. Should the Marina Landing project proceed in its current form, we will pursue legal action to protect our rights. These rights that are spelled out in our deed cannot be transferred to another party. This clearly has been done here. We believe the city made a terrible error with this parking agreement. We request the mayor and the council to promptly address the matter to avoid any further conflict. I thank you all for your service, and I thank you for your time and attention in this matter. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Shope. If you wouldn't mind having your attorney forward that to the clerk's office for
Absolutely.
council.
It'd be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robert Taylor, Salisbury resident. I did not come here to speak about Brew River and Marina Landing, but since it's come up, I might point out that in the lawsuit that the developer of Marina Landing has brought against the city, that has now been assigned to a magistrate judge, kind of a junior judge in the federal court system. His name is J. Mark Colson, and the plaintiffs in that, the developer, have agreed, have consented to have a United States magistrate judge, the man I just named, conduct any and all further proceedings in the case, including trial and order the entry of final judgment. In other words, the whole 9 yards, the whole shebang, if you will, which can be done under the federal system. I did come here to continue on what I spoke to last time, the affordable housing situation here in the city. For years, it's been a declared policy that we should have more affordable housing. It's not new. What would be new, if we did something about it, would be doing something about it. Nothing's been done. And as I pointed out last time, one of the things that we could do is amend the Horizon program to require that anybody that's going to get that in the future has to provide affordable housing. Now, when I concluded, Mr. Dowdy said that, oh, well, we've made a decision that we can't do that until we have comprehensive plan review. Well, let's look at it realistically. The Horizon program is not part of planning or zoning. It's in a completely separate part of the code. Any change we would make in that would not have to go to the Planning Commission. It could be done very quickly. As I said last time, let's get going on that. Let's get a work session. Let's get a task group. That could be done in 30 or 60 days easily. It may be more complex to require in new subdivisions that there be an affordable housing component. That would have to go. That would be a zoning matter and a subdivision matter. So that's in a little bit different stature. I see there's some developers here tonight, or I think this is an opportunity to ask them, how much affordable housing are you going to provide if you want the Horizon program? Mr. Gillis is here. Back in September of last year, when this was discussed, he said, we are renting units at the market rate, so introducing components for affordability would be contradictory to one of the battles we fought for time and time again in regard to this project. So, I mean, in other words, we don't want those people in our project. That's the short answer to that. Thank you, and see you later.
Thank you. Else wishing to?
Riley Smith, Salisbury. Did anyone ride their bike to the meeting? Raise your hand.
I considered it.
We have a consideration. Millions of dollars in a consideration. The Hippocratic Oath is an oath of ethics historically taken by physicians. It is one of the most widely known of Greek medical texts. In its original form, it requires a new physician to swear by a number of healing gods to uphold specific ethical standards. The oath is the earliest expression of medical ethics in the Western world, establishing several principles of medical ethics which remain of paramount significance today. Hypocrisy is the practice of feigning to be what one is not, or to believe what one does or one does not. The word hypocrisy entered the English language circa 1200 with the meaning the sin of pretending to virtue or goodness. Today, hypocrisy often refers to advocating behaviors that one does not practice. That must mean spending tax dollars on bike paths is meant to satisfy you and your unpopular agenda, not the public. Is that your oath of hypocrisy? I reviewed the 2024 audit to get some idea of how much city taxpayer money you have specifically wasted on the communist-like elitist bike paths, whether it be including state and federal funds, but specific line item capital expenditures were not available. I know the traffic pattern mess on Carroll Street and removing or drastically altering Waverly Avenue cost a ridiculous amount of money for a bad original idea, but then fixing the bad original idea at even more expense. This brings me to a request, a useful future position or addition to an existing position, so far unnamed or out in the open enough for me to use it if it exists. Both the mayor and council have expertly censored questions and answers through time limits or lack of easy accommodation. For example, oh, I lost your phone number, childish brush-offs, or your time is up. You can handle it, Mayor. Citizens, specifically me, at this point need access to gain clarification about city expenditures and the cost-benefit relationships. I called the mayor's office at 1 o'clock today to discuss with Andy, but no one answered the phone and I was not going to leave a message. However, this has since been resolved. I admit the questions I might have, most of you will not be able to answer, but you should admit that you have qualified employees that can. They need to be made available to the people that pay them. For the people that pay for them, me being included in that statistic.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My time is already clicking probably, so I just want to say one thing, and it's probably mainly directed to the City Council and not to Julie particularly, but there was a promise made a while back that there would be a access point for the public to get email notifications of the documents and the meetings, and that came as a result of what was then being stated as a public relations, newsworthy only group of people getting what had been originally a more open platform, notifying people like me of the nature of the meeting, so that I wasn't having to check things several times. And thankfully we have this new portal. But when something gets changed at the last minute, I already think I've already seen what I thought was the agenda, and then something happens, and I think it would be prudent if we could go back to some sort of a consumer sign-up, citizen accessed way of notification if a citizen so desired, not something sent to the entire publication of the count of the city, but if someone was so interested, like I have been over the last almost 3 years, to take the information and then disseminate it to as factual, stated, just as this is the agenda, here's what on it, here's what time, here's where you go, and so forth. I think it would just be nice to have that back in some form so that I wasn't constantly wondering if I got the latest edition of the documents to share with people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mike Perensky. I'm the city resident and chairperson of the Parks Committee. During the next meeting, you guys are going to be considering the Parks Rules Resolution. As a committee, we just don't think that's an appropriate way to implement the Parks Rules. We think these should really be captured in an ordinance. We currently don't have anything in our city code that really governs the parks. There's nothing there. We have in section 6 of the code, there is reference to Ben's Red Swings, but that's under the animals section of the city code, and it actually restricts animals from entering Ben's Red Swings. So that's, take that as you will. And then there's a limited set of zoo rules in section 6 of the code, and really, you know, I think it was 2018 when I first joined the Parks Committee, and this has been an item on the agenda basically since then. The code recommendations that we've provided to the mayor's office were developed by David Plotz as he was participating on the Charter Review Committee for the county. So basically, we had a good first draft that came from someone who had just done this work and really thought about this quite a bit. So we're suggesting that we adopt the Parks Rules into Chapter 12 of the City Code, which governs public spaces. The Maryland Department of Planning recommends that we adopt rules that govern public spaces like parks, which are really a public institution of the city, into our code. You know, I'm not going to get into too many of the details right now, but I'll just let you know, like, I've got copies of the code recommendations that we sent as just like a first draft. As the committee really started to dig into it, we received a draft from the mayor's office that sort of didn't really resemble the code recommendations that we had sent over, but we did make just put a lot of thought into that draft. Then at a certain point, we got a different draft, which we started to mark up a little bit here, but the resolution that's going to come before you tonight really doesn't reflect some of the key areas that I think we need to consider. I'm happy to share more, but my time's running out, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Michael Langford. I live at 1026 Arthur Court within the city. I'm here to share comments for for Ms. Holly Worthington of 212 South Claremont Drive, who isn't able to be here tonight, but has asked me to speak as in solidarity with her out of concern as fellow resident of the city. So she's also informed me that she's emailed this to council and the mayor's office. Dear Mayor and Council, the current state of affairs in downtown Salisbury reflects a growing concern among residents and stakeholders about rapid development, increased congestion, overcrowding, and a critical shortage of parking. These issues have become more pronounced as large-scale projects continue to move forward without sufficient infrastructure or long-term planning in place. According to recent parking analysis, the Central Business District is already experiencing a projected shortfall of 702 parking spaces, a number that raises serious questions about the city's approach to urban growth and accessibility. Despite these clear warning signs, the city has made questionable financial decisions, such as selling off valuable public land at a fraction of its worth. A prime example is the sale of the Marina Landing site, 2.49 acres, which the city purchased in 1988 for $1.4 million and then sold to One Fitzwater Street LLC for just $1, along with a deal granting exclusive use to the adjacent public parking lot. This not only depletes public assets, but exacerbates the existing parking crisis and contributes to congestion. We heard comments earlier speaking to that. In this context, tonight's decision to invite downtown developers to address the City Council appears designed not just to inform, but to provide a public stage for blaming Mayor Taylor, accusing him of deliberately delaying projects and causing setbacks. However, what's often overlooked is that many of the challenges these projects face stem from the city's own failure to honor contractual obligations made by previous administration and council. That in itself is a serious breach that cannot be ignored. It's important to recognize that Mayor Taylor's insistence on fully understanding the implications of these developments is not obstructionism, it's responsible governance. These are not problems that are now surfacing because he caused them, but merely because he inherited them. Blame should not be cast without understanding the full context, and facts. Oversized housing developments, relaxed parking requirements, and the undervaluing of city-owned property are decisions that require scrutiny, not scapegoating. If Salisbury is to grow sustainably, these decisions must be made with transparency, foresight, and accountability. As I've stated time and time again, the reason that the Zoning Board of Appeals initially declined approvals because of the negative impact projects of this scale and nature would have on the existing downtown Salisbury, Maryland. It's here that I invested my hard-earned money due to the historical beauty it currently possesses. This is why I am actively pursuing a lawsuit, which can be wrapped up any day now and filed. Due to the information that keeps being discovered and changes made in the local zoning, it has taken quite some preparation to ensure that we have all bases covered with this suit. Unfortunately, I will not be in attendance this evening, and the truth is we, the public, are never heard in our thoughts or taken into account during these hearings. I should add, Sharon DeShiel on the council does read the facts, takes all information, proceeds in a correct decision, takes it all into account, but she's always overpowered by those who aren't doing their due diligence. Thank you, Holly Worthington, 212 South Claremont Drive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to give public comment on any topic? Seeing none, that concludes the legislative session for this evening. Time is 6:39, and we will transition into the work session. At the same time, we will start tonight's work session with the downtown developer update. We will invite the developers from Lot 10, Lots 1, 11, and 15, and Lot 30 to the table here. officers, if you want to.
Yeah. That was a power move on my part. I saw that.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Before I ask you all to just state your name and your respective projects for the record, I just want to state that, again, tonight's discussion and update from you all is to really speak to the council, give us an update on your individual projects, tell us where you are and how the city, and especially the city council, can be of support. This is, again, not a moment for us to take to direct any comments to any one person or position or title. We are here to see how we can move forward. So, again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing this dialogue. So if we can go down the line, explain your name and your respective project, and then we'll move on from there.
Brad Gillis, Salisbury Town Center.
Dave Layfield, Green Street Housing, SBY Market Center, which is located at City Parking Lot, Lot 30.
Nick Simpson, Mentis Capital with Lot 10 and the Hotel Conference Center Development.
Thank you. Since, Mr. Gillis, you are to my left, if you don't mind starting first, just give us a brief overview and for the public, what your project is, where it is currently, and then, of course, how the city can be of support.
Sure. I think the project's been discussed in the public for quite some time. So, again, we're developing former parking lots number 1, 11, and 15. And I do have a prepared statement. I've read it, and it takes 3 minutes, and I'll just read it. So here we go. All right. My name is Brad Gillis. I prepared a brief statement. I will be happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on Salisbury Town Center. We are passionate about this project. We believe it will have a positive impact on our downtown, and we've been working hard on its implementation for many, many years. Our development company, Salisbury Town Center Apartments, LLC, signed a land disposition agreement with the City of Salisbury to build Salisbury Town Center Apartments on the sites commonly referred to as parking lots 1, 11, and 15. This agreement was amended and restated in 2023. The land disposition agreement includes city responsibilities to build a public parking garage paid for by user revenue. In the LDA section 5.1.3, it very clearly states the city's commitment to build a public parking garage constitutes a material term of our agreement without which we would have not signed. The land disposition agreement makes it our responsibility to work alongside city officials to ensure the public parking garage is designed to the city's specifications, pay all costs associated with its design, contribute $750,000 towards its planning, permitting, construction, and maintenance, in addition to becoming a paying customer upon its completion. As developers, we have fulfilled our commitments and contractual obligations of this agreement by achieving final site plan approval for Salisbury Town Center. By Council Resolution 3263, Gillis-Gilkerson has been identified as the provider for the construction management at-risk services for designing and constructing the parking garage. Our team has met with city officials and staff on a bi-monthly basis to fulfill its design and competitively bid all aspects of the garage's construction. We've provided a cost for the parking garage, which is reflected in the city's FY23 capital improvement budget. We have provided parking garage design drawings that have been submitted and awaiting review at DID. Building Salisbury Town Center Apartments and the new parking garage is one project, not two. We have relied on the commitments of the City of Salisbury and have moved forward on our obligations outlined in the agreement. Next steps. We request the city sign the construction management at-risk agreement that was approved by Council Resolution 3263 in October of 2023. 2, introduce a bond ordinance to finance the public parking garage. 3, review Salisbury Town Center building permit drawings that have been in DID for nearly 2 years. 4, review the public parking garage permit drawings that have been in DID for over 12 months. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. just writing all of this down. Thank you for that update and overview. Council, any questions or comments that you have pertaining to the Salisbury Town Center project, the status, and then status, where it is, and then the next steps?
I do. I have a couple questions. So so it sounds like a lot of this stuff is held up in the Department of DID. Is that correct?
New information as of Thursday, we have final site plan approval. That was our last public meeting.
Yes.
The next major steps are construction design related, which falls into DID. That's correct.
So the review of the drawings have been there for 2 years?
Yes, we have submitted and have had dropped off since I think October of 2023. I remember wheeling them down in my wagon from travel baseball. Yeah. Not to get into semantics, but it was not time to review the drawings.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't want to get into that, but it's, there were steps that were...
We were required to submit them, and we submitted them.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But your approval from Thursday, does that push?
The 4 items that we're requesting of the city of Salisbury, after we have fulfilled our commitments, the milestone for us was final site plan approval. And it's our opinion that the guiding document, the obligations that we have and also the city of Salisbury has within our land disposition agreement, after final site plan approval, the city is obligated, is committed to signing the construction management at-risk agreement, which is, I believe, an exhibit in the LGA. It was approved by Council Resolution 3263 in October of 2023. Jennifer Miller in that meeting does an amazing job describing the process that she went through for the selection process. The second item, which is to introduce a bond ordinance to finance the parking garage. And it's a chicken or the egg situation, quite honestly. So, without understanding the scope, we can't price it. And if we can't price it, we can't bond it. So we have to have the parking garage drawings the construction drawings have been submitted as of, I believe, May of 2024. We made sure that we met a deadline to submit the drawings so that they could be in, I think it was a International Building Code.
Yes,
yeah,
code,
2018. Because it was going to be updated and it was going to cost more to construct the garage because it would now have applied to a new code. So those have been, again, submitted in DID, to my knowledge, since May of 2024, which again was our obligation. I don't know if I clearly, but those are the 4 items.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are all of your units in the Salisbury Town Center, they're all for rent, correct?
Yes.
Okay, not for purchase and not affordable, correct? Just, that's already been established, is that correct?
We are a market rate project, so the word affordability, right, wrong, or indifferent, means many things to many people. It means something completely different to the man to my left. But our target market is market rate, and that has been something that we've discussed for years now. So we're going after and are pursuing a young professional, an executive that is in transit, a traveling nurse, a Purdue executive that's just moved here, an SU professor, Title Health resident student or residency grad. Those are the goals of our project.
Okay, now, is there any change when you said your proposal for providing $750,000, correct, towards the garage?
Is there a change?
Has that increased with the cost of everything in the last couple of years?
Our obligation to fund $750,000 toward the parking garage has not changed.
Okay.
And nor has the commitments that we've made on the LDA, and we're here asking that the city fulfill its commitments, which are listed, the items that I talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Before I give administration a chance to comment or ask any questions, I want to make sure that Councilwoman McGregor doesn't have any questions or.
No,
Okay.
already covered it.
Administration, I want to make sure you all don't, I don't want to put you on the spot, but make sure you give you all some time to, okay. Thank you for kind of giving us the runway here.
You're welcome.
It looks like we have some questions to, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but we'll confer with the respective departments to see kind of where they are, but it looks like the runway has been kind of cleared for a few items that the city needs to fulfill as part of their obligations with the LDA, especially after Thursday's decision. So thank you for that, and we'll keep this as a fluid conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. Layfield, we'll move on to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm David Layfield, founder and principal of Green Street Housing, headquartered here in Salisbury, Maryland. We are one of Maryland's largest affordable housing developers. And as Brad alluded to, affordable housing means something a little bit different to me because I've lived it for 30-some years. I've built thousands and thousands of affordable units, over $1 billion worth of value in my career over a 30-year span. All rental housing, primarily using state and federal subsidy programs. We also work with many municipalities on local financing programs as well. We don't see as much of those type of programs on the Eastern Shore because there's not as much of a tax base. So our project is on lot 30. It's called SBY Market Center. It's 50 units, all affordable, above an 11,000 square foot public market space that we have pledged to operate as a public market for the benefit of the community, where folks can come and buy consumer goods on a daily basis. We've been working on this project for a very long time. It's a small city lot, an acre and a half, but we've made it work. And it hasn't, it's not been an easy road, especially lately. Affordable housing is difficult. What Brad does is really tough. What we do is even tougher because we're restricted by rents. So we don't get to raise the rents when market goes up. We have to go by whatever the federal rent limits are. So we always have to try and stay within cost structures. And recently, in the last few years, between interest rates creeping, not creeping, they started creeping and then they rocketed, and construction costs doing the same thing, we've had to rework our financials several times on this project. But for the last year or so, we've had a financially viable project ready to go. Let me back up. So there were a few contractual obligations that the city had to us in a legally binding contract that we've signed with the city many years ago, even before we closed and bought the land, that required the city to enter into a pre-negotiated pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, as well as a ground lease for a small lot on the corner of Route 50 and the Purdue plant, where we will be putting 23 parking spaces as auxiliary parking. Our attorney, Mo Smith, back in October, began negotiating with your attorney, Ms. Ashley Boucher, on both a pilot agreement and a ground lease agreement. That negotiation, and these things take time when it's the holidays, took almost until the end of February to finish up. But I hold in my hands 2 documents that Ms. Boucher and my attorney, and I asked him how many hours he billed me today for it, and he billed me about 8. I don't know how much time Ms. Boucher spent, but I'd guess that she's pretty diligent. She spent about the same amount of time. These documents, I understand, were transmitted from Ms. Boucher to the mayor's office on March 7th. Still haven't heard anything. We can't move forward on a project if we don't have good faith partners that are going to engage with us. We've asked for a review of the documents, and all we get are mysterious meeting requests, which I believe are just attempts to renegotiate. So if you ask me what I need, like Brad said, I need the city to fulfill its contractual obligation to me. And these are contractually obligated. You don't get out of them. They're in the contract. So what I would ask is, if the mayor's refusing to sign them, which clearly after 74 days, I have to assume that he doesn't have an intention to, I would ask that the city council pass an ordinance. I'll give you these documents, or Ms. Boucher can give you the documents because she was party to them. And by the way, I know the mayor's office was involved in back and forth with Ms. Boucher because my attorney told me that the mayor's office was providing comments. What I would ask is that you just pass an ordinance saying when it's time to close, and I'm not asking you to sign it right now, but when it's time to close, someone, whether it be the mayor of Salisbury or someone that's willing to do it, if the mayor isn't, sign this form of document. 2 ordinances, 1 ordinance, whatever. But I can't keep moving forward in good faith if the city's not moving forward in good faith. Because my investors and my lenders are asking me, why don't you have reviews from the city on this stuff? And I'll close by saying, I didn't come here tonight to talk about Robert Taylor. But Robert Taylor spoke about affordable housing and its need, and I agree with him, and that's something new for me. We need affordable housing in this community, and now is your opportunity. Now, he's not right in saying you've never done anything for affordable housing, because if it wasn't for you all taking action some time ago, Mitchell Landing would still be rotting instead of having 12 new families move in. But I believe now is your opportunity to take another action to forward affordable housing in this community. Thank you.
Mr. Layfield, I'll start the question. I know you referenced the one document was the pilot and the ordinance for that. What's the other document there?
It's a ground lease where we agreed upon in the purchase agreement with the city, a 99-year lease from the city for a very small postage stamp lot that's on the corner of Route 50 next to the Purdue plant, where we're placing, I believe, 23 parking spaces.
So you can have the additional parking there.
It's some auxiliary parking. Okay. It's admittedly a tight parking site because it's so small. So this 23 spaces is important to us.
And then, and you mentioned for closing, does this, what does the timeline look like for the 2 documents that you need signed for closing? Is it contingent upon, or what?
So what I would ask, in a perfect world, there would be some letter of intent. You know, if I was dealing with an executive's office and not the council, I'd say, could you at least communicate to us in writing that this payment in lieu of taxes form that we spent 3 months negotiating is acceptable, but until we're ready to go to the closing table with lenders and investors that are still, the attorneys, their attorneys have not looked at any of these things, so their attorneys may not like the way this sentence has a period in the wrong place. So we may come back and say, Ms. Boucher, is it okay if item C2 gets reworded in this fashion to make someone else happy? So in a perfect world, you all would at least give me some sort of commitment that this is a good form. You're willing to make some minor modification if it doesn't change the nature of the deal. And on top of that, agree to sign any other sort of ancillary documents that might be required at that time, like estoppel letters or anything that really doesn't commit the city to anything else, but further clarifies the content of these documents.
Thank you. Council, any other questions or comments?
Mr. Layfield, just so that we're on the same page, when I talk about affordable housing, my goal is that we offer that and it be based upon the AMI and which I'm sure that is what you are doing because you're offering that. My other concern is that we have not only rental properties available, but that we have some properties that are for sale. So that's not your problem, just clarification on my part. I was going to ask you about parking, but you already answered that question. So that's it.
So to follow up on that, we're at 60% AMI is our
Right.
max limit. I mean, we actually do have a couple of units that are at 80% of AMI, which are
Okay.
considered more workforce.
Right.
And then we have multiple tiers moving down from that.
Okay.
And then I agree about homeownership. I've made my life career building affordable rental. It's an entire industry segment. But we do need more affordable homeownership opportunities out there.
So your highest is 80, and it tiers down.
Yeah, it's only a couple of units at 80.
But I mean, it does tier down.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Down to 30%, which
Right.
is very low.
That was going to be my question, was how low it actually goes, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a mix from 30, 40, it's a mix of 30, 40, 50, 60, 80. And there's just a few units at each tier.
Right.
Sure.
President Daly. Yeah, I think the problem with the structure of you guys coming here like this tonight without the benefit of DID or at least a little bit of notice is we're going to put together some files that I think kind of tells a little bit different story maybe than the story's being told. As it relates to Lot 30, the pilot's only going to come into play when the units are built. I mean, I don't know when we're in a big rush to sign that, number one. Number two, the agreement with regard to the parking lot agreement is, again, a function of the project being completed. And that's far from being, as I understand it from DID, the last time you guys came in for review was in November of '24. That's been almost 6 months ago. So there were a number of notes there. There's been no activity since. Yet we're sending a parking lot agreement or a pilot, which we're not even got a clear on the project. Now, having said that, that second parking lot agreement gets us to a grand total from starting of 22 to 44 spots for a project that requires 145 spots based on the typical modeling of parking. Now, having said that, that adds to the problem that Mr. Schwab was talking about with Pearl River, which is also earmarked by another couple projects. So yeah, I wanted to sit down and have a conversation. I asked for that meeting a couple times, but I haven't been granted that meeting. So yeah, that's one way of looking at it. But the other look is that why am I going to get more intertwined with a project that's not even approved or built yet? Secondly, there's a line under that site and a sewer main, or not a sewer main, a water main drain that needs a backflow preventer, needs to be moved off that site, which we haven't gotten even a public works agreement. We're so far from the pilot component. It's just, it seems like you're just leading with that and then blaming me for not wanting to entertain it. You know, when the time comes, just like in the agreement with Mitchell Landing, you know, the situation with that was, hey, listen, I didn't agree with giving you the property. I thought it was worth something. In fact, I had documentation that proved it was. Secondly, I wanted, if I was going to do that, we were going to give it to you, we're going to at least get the construction agreement in place, which you didn't have at the time until the day we arrived here at City Council. So, listen, you perceive me as an opponent. What I am is a proponent of the city of Salisbury, and I'm fighting that fight. You know, so to the extent that you're a, collateral damage, I apologize, but what I'm trying to do is represent the city of Salisbury. Period, new paragraph.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Boucher, did you have any, I know you mentioned that about the agreement, did you have any comment on the work that you've done with the pilot agreement and that you've given to the executive's office?
Just that it's been approved for legal sufficiency.
Okay.
No one's saying it's not. I'm just saying it wasn't time to sign it, in my view.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you mind forwarding that to, or do you have a copy that you can forward to council so that we can see or is it pretty boilerplate?
It is based upon city's forms, but specific to this particular project.
Do you mind sending that over to the council? Okay. So it looks like, I know there's some nuances. Again, our goal here is just to hear from you all, and then we'll confer and see where city can provide some support. It seems like we have some questions and concerns, so we'll make sure we update that. It looks like the pilot agreement and the ground lease agreement will get you all moving, and your investors need those two things in order to secure financing, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, much to the mayor's disbelief, you actually need these documents long before you get to a closing table.
I understand.
So we do need
I'm not suggesting that.
We need to check these off.
But you need an approval as well.
We need to check these off,
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions?
We know what you're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, thank you for having us here tonight. So with the Lot 10 development, I'm going to be a little bit more brief because I think people are we're losing the audience here. Straight to it is the state of Maryland granted a grant for our project, which is a multi-million-dollar investment in our city. And we've been talking about having a hotel and conference center in Salisbury, Maryland since the 1990s, when I've seen reports about on particularly this lot. And we've taken the steps to get a hotel conference center to move forward. Hilton by Tapestry was selected. We had begun developing the blueprints and moving the project forward with the expectation that the grant was going to be issued to the project. In fact, we believed that not only before the ordinance 2839 was passed, but after, especially after the ordinance was passed, it said that the grant was for the project. Since then, we have presented evidence from the Department of General Services, who is issuing the grant, that they approve of where the dollars are being spent on our project. And today, we're just being held up by the lack of signing of the subrecipient agreement, which is just saying that the funds can flow through to the project. And today, all we're asking is approval of that subrecipient agreement to be signed by the city so that the project can move forward, so that we can be good stewards of the property as it was sold to us and intended for development.
So, now I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since we've kind of discussed Lot 10 and the subrecipient agreement. I know that we were having discussions about that with legal. Where are you all with the draft of the subrecipient agreement and with the executives in the administrative office?
We could never agree on the terms of what could be spent on their behalf. We actually got an internal quote for infrastructure for the project, internal to us, but the applicant would constantly ask for projects or items that were included in the project, elevators and various expenses, which were not part of the grant. So we went back and forth. The terminology used were eligible expenses. Well, they're eligible expenses as long as they're city infrastructure items, but not for a private developer. And that's the part we stuck. That's been 6 or 7 months ago. I spoke to your prior partner, him deceased now. He's deceased now, but he was not moving forward. Are you telling me you have a commitment from a franchisor or for a hotel?
I had a commitment prior to.
I have never seen it to this day.
And we've actually had to pay fees to Hilton for that agreement. And
so you're saying that on the record, you're saying that right now?
100% Hilton by Tapestry, or Tapestry by Hilton rather, was a signed agreement for that parcel, and we have moved forward with design development, blueprint.
Well, you're keeping it a secret because DID has nothing in their files.
I want to make sure sure. And so I don't want to go, some of this can be had, of course, I don't want to get back and forth, but you mentioned the subrecipient, I'm going to get back to the subrecipient agreement. It sounds like that is the kind of missing link.
Correct.
Do we have a draft subrecipient agreement particular to the Lot 10?
I believe the city has a form subrecipient agreement.
Okay.
The issue has been not reaching a consensus on Exhibit B, which were the eligible expenses.
Okay.
For a project that's never been permitted. We don't even have a project that's permitted. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just, listen.
Again, there's been a lot of shifting of expectations for our project. We were told by multiple administrations that we should move forward on certain expenses, and every time we were meeting expectations, the city was meeting theirs, we continued to invest and move forward with our project until we got to the subrecipient agreement. This is simply money from the state of Maryland. There's not a dollar being committed by the city itself. It's just simply funds that are flowing from the Department of General Services into the project, and the director of the Department of General Services has reviewed Exhibit B, and they have approved it. Despite internal approvals of what infrastructure might be, the state has a different definition.
It's not true. It's absolutely not true.
We have emails that are in our demand letter.
You have an email from a woman that's incorrect. She made an incorrect statement.
Okay.
And so, and I know that that's been the topic of discussion, and my concern is we've had some concern from the state where they are looking at this, and so that's why the conversation, I'm glad that we're having the discussion, because at some point we're going to have to reach a consensus on those items, or we're going to lose out on these dollars and future dollars like that was just approved in the legislative session. Those dollars will likely not come to Salisbury, Maryland, and go to other jurisdictions that are also in need of that.
I know nothing about that. Know nothing about that.
Okay, so then perhaps I propose that we get some conversation going on, getting some consensus on those eligible items so that we move forward with the subrecipient agreements so that that item could be moved forward. That is a suggestion of mine, that we put some oomph into that conversation. That way we know where we're moving forward and have an agreement in place with those items.
President Dowdy, my memory serves me to think that we have been around and around with that $4 million approved list, and we had contacted the state ourselves, and in fact we have in emails that it's been approved. We've seen it. We've called up to the state ourselves. I know the mayor has said he had called up to the state. He got a different answer. We asked for the email that he wanted to validate that was not accurate. Our emails validate that it is accurate, that those items were approved for this particular pot of money for this particular project. And I do agree that we need to definitely resurface that and really get the ball rolling with this. But I do remember that conversation with all of us, and we had gone back and forth for a while. So this has been a reoccurring theme, it seems like, or it sounds like, about this $4 million, this Exhibit B. So I think we just need to get down to the nuts and bolts of it and get it moving forward.
It's so critical, like without clarity on that particular point in the project, we will not move forward with the project, and we will close the parking lot down. I will have no problem doing that. And we will pursue different development on that site because we have spent hundreds, about $1 million at least has been spent moving this project forward, and we're going to get our investment back if the city is not going to meet its obligations. So we hope that the city is willing to take steps in getting this subrecipient agreement, which is simply just a middleman to what the state is saying the funding is supposed to go to, and get the subrecipient agreement signed. We hope that it's the mayor's office working with us. We hope it's the city council working with us, but whatever that capacity, we just want the city to move forward with their end of the commitment.
Yeah. Ms. Boucher, do you mind sending the draft version of the subrecipient agreement and the Exhibit B to the whole council, or to Ms. English, so she can send it to the council so that everyone is up to speed on what those items are?
Just for the record, I spoke with Dave Harkins at length about this project until his passing.
David Harkins is not the managing member, nor was he ever the managing member of the project, and he is not the representative that you should be listening to.
Well, you're in the process of buying him out, is what I understand?
Besides that, I have 100% voting rights on speaking.
I read the operating agreement.
Project.
I read the operating agreement.
I'm sorry, was in a troubled place when he might have had a conversation with you and might have misguided you. I don't believe it's a good idea.
Dave Harkins misguided me, that Nick kept me on the right road. Got it.
I'm just saying, he might have misguided you about his intentions of what he wanted to do with that project.
Jesus.
And clearly he did not want to move forward with it. So,
Nick, you've got, a number of projects that are going on that aren't, so.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure we keep.
My point of this is that,
Mr.
I know
Mayor.
you're in a buyout situation right now. I've read the operating agreement. I understand what's going on. So, listen, this was an over-the-top approach to try and buy back.
No, and I want to make sure.
I'm just speaking because I'm at a council meeting, at a work session.
No, I'm just going to make one. I just want to make sure we keep our comments above board. And I preface everyone and then we're getting to some. Let's keep our comments above board. I've asked everyone here who they have some, but I've asked them to keep their comments above board in council, and we're getting down a route, and I don't want us to take that route, Mr. Mayor. So can we just keep our comments above board? And I give you the floor.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Nick was out of the picture for months and months and months and months until recently, until Bad Dave's passing, which is terrible. But my point is that I know you're in a buyout situation. I think you're looking for cash, and I get it. But at the end of the day, that's not the source of it. So,
thank you, Council, Administration. Any other comments pertaining to any of these three developments?
I do have. I just want to make this clear. So we have three projects, pretty large projects for Salisbury. They've been in the works for decades to really get the town moving and booming. So my question is, all of they have had lifelong experiences in this field. So they have dealt with contracts and agreements and banks and lawyers. And so when we're talking about the city has entered into contracts with these developers, they are binding contracts that the experience over a lifetime is you're not going to come into multi-million-dollar projects without having the documents and everything lined up. So it seems, I don't know how many professionals are on your team or your team, but there's hundreds of professionals that are involved in these projects. And it seems to me that it sounds like there's a theme or a pattern that, so hundreds of people can't be wrong trying to get the projects, and we have agreements and we have contracts. We have contracts. And decades in the making of these contracts. And as a council, I think we need to honor them and move forward with it.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Thank you all for your time. And you'll hear from the city. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Council, can we proceed forward or do we need a recess? Good. Good. Okay. Next item is a resolution to annex certain land to be known as Chestnut Way. And we have our Department of Infrastructure and Development Director, Mr. Nick Wojtek.
Now we bring him up. That's good.
Good evening.
Good evening. So it's an annexation for Pohanka. You guys have seen the Pohanka 1, we've been calling it, annexation, which was one city block at this Pohanka sort of complex of 3 blocks bound by Pine Way and on the south and Cherry Way. This is on Route 13 North in that sort of car dealership district on the east side of the road. Again, it's been sort of split into 2 different annexations. These are long running and have been in the works for quite a while. I think you guys may have voted on number 1. I think it might be through 1 session, maybe 2 sessions. I think the public notice is out right now, actually, so it's probably getting wrapped up soon. And this is just to introduce Pohanka 2. This is for the 2 northerly blocks out of the 3-block section. And the city will annex its property. We're going to have infrastructure extensions up the length of it, up Route 13, sort of in the right-of-way sidewalk area. So we'll have an extension of our system, which is always good. We'll get a bit of money to do improvements in the neighborhood and throughout town. And hope it's going to be good for the city.
Yes. I'm good. I'm glad we're moving forward with some of these annexation requests. Council, any questions or comments pertaining to this particular? I know we've discussed this one
many times.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to being annexed. Yes, definitely.
We have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Wojtek. All right. Next, I don't see anyone from. You'll be okay. We will pivot to City Administrator Andy Kitzrow for a resolution adopting rules and regulation of the city parks.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, Mike Dryden had a family emergency that he needed to attend to, so he's unable to present, so I'm pinch hitting for him. I did want to clarify a couple things. I do appreciate Mike Poronsky's comments. There is a May Parks and Rec Committee meeting that these will also be shared with upcoming. So this is our first go at it. We wanted to make sure that we got council's insight, also the public a little bit on the parks rules and regulations. So we'll be bringing this back before you again for full adoption. It is also interesting to note that there's a resolution that is presented for the parks and rules regulations, so that this is a secondary document. We will also be doing updates to the code through an ordinance that will then reference this document, so that if we want to make changes to the parks and rules regulations, it is an easier process forward via resolution rather than through an ordinance. So this is a document that will be a reference document, but we will be updating the ordinance. Dasha, did I get that correct?
That is correct. We will need to pass an ordinance for enabling legislation, which we're currently working on, and then the resolution would be to pass just the general rules.
Sure. Question for you. Do we normally bring the items to council first, then to the committees? from my understanding, they're normally brought to the committees first.
It usually is. This meeting was ahead of because of the earlier thing, so it is a little bit cart before the horse. But since it was already there in June, we just wanted to get an initial take, not only from you all, but also because work sessions allow for public comment, just to get some additional feedback.
Yeah. And I don't want to prolong this meeting any more in comments, but Council, do you want to comment on this, or do you want it to go to the Public Arts Committee first for comments? Go ahead.
I just have one question. Mr. Guthrie, the fact that they have, I mean, there are 29 areas under these rules and regulations. I think they've covered everything. If it's a reference document as part of an ordinance, as opposed to making these rules and regulations an ordinance, I understand your reasoning for that. Will it still have enough oomph or teeth in it so that these rules and regulations could be enforced if need be, even though they're not it's not an ordinance?
So your oomph comes from the ordinance. That's where the code gives you that oomph. Yeah. So also, just wanted to reference. We did take into consideration when we're drafting this, the initial comments and feedback from the fall from the Parks and Recs Committee on some of the initial drafts. We do have a copy of what was presented by the Parks and Rec initially. And then we also borrowed from Wycomico County Recreation, Parks and Tourism, their parks and rules and regulations, kind of put those together, had a nice blend, had a couple internal workshops to go over these. This is what's popped out, so I think a final review. It sounds like, Mike, there's still a couple some tweaks that we need to make or some further considerations, which I'm looking forward to that additional conversation and updates. But to your point specifically, this will be kind of the guiding document, but some of those, the teeth as we call it, will come from the code, and that's your violations, your infractions, and kind of what happens as a result of violations.
Okay, good.
Did ABCD staff write these rules?
Yes, yes. Scott and Alan are part of the work session.
Okay.
Our Parks Division was part of the work session. So I didn't know if there's anything specific that you were looking at, if you're able to review it, or if this is a little bit.
Yes.
I do. I just, for clarification, it sounds like there's a difference between what we're reading and what actually had been proposed. It seems like there's a gross difference between the two ideologies in what had been proposed by David Pollitt and then what the city has put out, and it doesn't seem like it's matching up very well. Is that an accurate statement or not?
I wouldn't say a gross understanding. I think there is recommendations that come forward from any advisory board. We take that based off of our expertise and our knowledge and our previous experiences, and I wouldn't say cherry pick, but combine the two ideas. If there's a couple things that are not included that are pretty strong items that these should have further advocation for, I think that's where we have a further conversation about those and say, here's why we didn't include it. What are your thoughts on that? And then you go back and you revise it. That's why we want to go a couple rounds at this. We don't usually take any first draft as a final version.
Yeah. Councilwoman.
Yeah, I would much rather personally see this come from the committee directly. It's kind of, I understand timing and everything, but usually the relevant committee has oversight and input put into it before it comes in front of us. So I would really rather see us not move this forward until the committee has had a chance to look it over and give their stamp of approval of it and have, put their fingerprints on it, because these are the folks that we count on to advocate for these different subjects. That's why we have these committees. So I would much rather move this forward after they've had a look at it.
Yeah, see, I mean, I know the council received an email with some substance from the former chairperson who has been working on this, like Mr. Bronski said, for years, and then Mr. Bronski had some ideas. So I would, and they've had this item on the agenda for quite some time. So I would love to hear from them, make sure that they get their teeth into this, and I would like to see some, a draft copy that they included with this, and see some notes from them, and then, I would love to take a look at it. But again, if these are what we deem to be our city's experts and what they are giving commentary, I would love to hear from them.
Absolutely, and again, just kind of doubling down, this was not an in place of, this was a starting conversation with a combination, but also for a first reaction from the public. With some things that have recently happened, we thought we wanted to get this conversation started with you all on this work session. So, yeah, I don't need anything to be moved forward. Just wanted to get an initial litmus test.
Good, thank you. you, Mr. Kittredge. We'll move forward to the ordinance amending Title V of the City Code entitled Business Licenses and Regulations to add Chapter 5.23. To authorize and govern a gas franchise agreement.
Mr. Kitzrow, would you like me to speak to this?
That would be amazing. I mean, I could have gone 2 for 2, but if you want to take this one.
So Chesapeake, Eastern Shore Natural Gas, I believe, or Chesapeake, they presented a franchise agreement. The current one had expired. When I went to research, it looks like we never passed enabling legislation even for the first franchise agreement. So what I've done is prepare a new section of the code that allows for franchise agreements in this particular context. The code only speaks to franchise agreements with cable providers. So hopefully part of the packet included the franchise agreement, which has been agreed upon by my office and the company. So we just need to pass the enabling legislation, and then the city can enter into the agreement for this particular franchise.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
No.
Or comments?
None.
My only question is just the violation is not to exceed the $500. What? Just trying to. Was that language previously in? That's lines 83 to 88, 5.23.030 violations of franchise. Was that language previously in?
I think it mirrors what we have in the with franchise for the cable, so we can change the.
Okay.
But that's.
I was just making sure that it was meeting what other. Okay, that was my only comment. All right. Given no other comments or concerns, council, we have consensus to move this forward.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Ms. Boucher. And Mr. Kitzrow. This time we'll pivot to the public comments portion of the agenda. Again, we would love to hear from you on any of the above items that we've discussed. Persons are welcome to enter the podium. Enter to the podium. Just state your name, and if you are a city resident, you will have 3 minutes.
Joe Schiaffino, city resident.
Mr. Kittredge.
Yep, got it.
The presentation, the opportunity for the developers, in my opinion, had potential to be beneficial, but the fact that it was added to the agenda at the last minute, giving no opportunity for DID or the mayor to prepare, it just appears to have had a nefarious intention instead of a beneficial. I think had DID had an opportunity to address council on their end, if council truly wanted to know updates, I think DID should have been heard from. The mayor did respond, but again, it was almost like an ambush, I'm sorry to say. And I just want to address Councilwoman Blake was pointing out that the developers have hundreds of professionals that know their stuff. Well, I want to point out that the mayor, with a background in banking and working with developers, is the only person at that table with that experience. So he's got the taxpayers' interests at heart, for sure. I'm not sure about some members of council. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clear up, this item was on the agenda when it was published. It was not added at the last minute.
Hello, my name is Michael Langford, again, 1026 Arthur Court. A couple things. Mr. Gillis's comment, again, for people maybe not familiar, and I feel many people on the council are not, so it could be, sincere on your part, just ignorance, but a municipality the size of ours would not typically enter into like a bonding agreement for a private development interest. That's just not a typical business maneuver. The presentation of it is disingenuous, to say the least. Mr. Layfield's comment about mysterious meeting requests is just smearing and nonsense talk. I don't really understand why we're supposed to take that seriously. Again, if they can't come to the table, meet somebody in the eyes and have a conversation, I don't really know why we're even entertaining this. It seems like in general it's a facade for them to overstep the reach of what the legislative body does within the municipality. Executive does certain things, the legislative does others. Not really quite sure why they're overreaching, but again, people can draw their own conclusions. Pushing a legislative measure to approve contracts submitted to the mayor, which is, again, outside the scope of the legislative body and what their role, their duties, their rights, their privileges of those positions are. You guys, frankly, don't have the experience or the knowledge to make those determinations. It's just foolish. There's no other way to put it. I mean, it is foolhardy for people who do not know, who are ignorant, who are not willing to meet people in the eyes. Those people, like, I don't know why you would think that you guys could determine whether or not, yeah, a legal contract is one thing, but whether or not it's good to enter into that agreement, I mean, is a whole nother, which, again, you guys just kind of seems over your guys' heads. Simpson, threatening to shut down a lot is just immature. I mean, I have no other way to say it other than it's childlike. I mean, we have some people who have obviously been handed quite a bit in their lives, so they seem to just be able to, you know, feel that they can go on that way anywhere they want. But a sub-recipient agreement, unsigned, is no obligation on the part of the city. You all can bring any contract to me. Anybody can bring any lease to me. I don't have to adopt that lease as somebody operating in good faith and operating in business. Like, why the city would enter into a 99-year lease is absurd, because it's going to undervalue the asset of the city. So moving forward, you know, it feels like you should probably like take a little bit closer look at those and how it's going to serve like long-term planning. I guess that's what I would like to see. It just does seem fairly disingenuous to ask those people to come here. Of course it's their vested interest. Of course they'd make more money. So of course they want the rules bent in their favor. But that's not your role. That's not Randy's role, the mayor. That's not anybody's role in here to like serve their interests. Like, they're not the only people. Like, there's tons of companies doing development. Like, the presentation of them as the only people doing business in town is absurd. Again, it's just meant to mislead the public. It's disingenuous. It's misleading. We really should not entertain it in our public spheres. I think you guys should do better on council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robert Taylor again, still a city resident. I didn't hang around to hear the developers. I knew it would be the same old, same old. I did hang around because of the city park rules and park rules and regulations. I've lived across the street from the city park for 50-plus years. I have a little idea of how the park is used it some myself. And I have a lot of comments on the proposed rules that were in the briefing book. I won't go into them because I can understand from the discussion that this is now going to be sort of back at first base, or there's going to be a lot more consideration of this. I don't know how it's going to be done exactly. You all were up and down on that. But I do have a markup, and I think what I'll do, rather than go through it in my limited time, I'll just dictate an MP3 file and go through item by item, send it to you. And if the gentleman will give me his email address, I'll send it to him too. Just briefly, I'm not against the rules and regulations generally. I'm not against any of the goals in there. But there is a lot of language that I think needs some cleaning up. And that's what I'll focus on when I send you this. Just one other comment. We stand here, we have 3 minutes normally to speak, and we can't get into all of the weeds on things like affordable housing. Yes, Mr. Layfield's company does a kind of, you can call it affordable housing if anything under market rate is considered affordable. They specialize in low-income housing tax credits, which is a federal developer subsidy program that's administered through the states. But it's a federal program to begin with. That's what they've specialized in for years. There's other financing that comes through the state that's aimed for what I'd call maybe ultra low income housing. And you heard him give some percentages of AMI. most of them were very low. Yeah, there are a couple up in the 80% range. When I'm talking about affordable housing as a policy, I'm talking about something above that. Sometimes it's now called attainable housing for people who can't qualify, by and large, for LIHTC housing. That's what we really need as a policy. Many jurisdictions, Annapolis just recently and others, have implemented programs where subdividers must provide a certain level of that type of housing. We also have these tax giveaway programs, particularly the Horizon program. Now, if we're going to give a 20-year waiver of taxes, 70% over 20 years under our Horizon program, why shouldn't those people provide something for us for affordable housing? And that goes for the hotel. I mean, why do we want to give a 20-year tax break for a hotel, for Pete's sake? But if we do, let's put in a requirement that they've got to either provide affordable housing on site or provide some money that can go into a fund to implement affordable housing programs. Molly Hilligus could run something like that. So, I mean, there's just a lot to be done, and we haven't done anything. We keep talking about it. We had our meetings at the firehouse 6-8 months ago. It sounded like we were going gangbusters on it. Then it just dropped. And we need to do something. We need to have a work session where we can talk about these things, not just 3 minutes. I guess I'm getting short here. And I told my wife I'd be home fairly soon, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Venosa, Salisbury. So, as I was overhearing Mr. Taylor's comments about the prioritization or lack thereof of affordable housing, I think when you ask these questions, and I'm assuming they're hypothetical or at least rhetorical, but I think we really need to talk about the elephant in the room on this, which is that it's never been this particular city council's desire to actually push for genuine affordable housing. I know some members individually support that, but by and large it seems the majority don't, certainly not the city council president. What they have, of course, prioritized are the subsidies to the developers. That's different than affordable housing. And the fact that the agenda was changed in an incredibly, I think, irresponsible way at, I believe, 3 o'clock on a Friday to include this special kind of status to basically set up the mayor and other people that are skeptical of some of these subsidy programs is really atrocious. It's an abuse of power, and I think it's, frankly, sir, an ethical disgrace, particularly when one of them was your former employer. I think we're in a situation where right now the public has reached a point where these incredible conflicts of interests and lack of regular people's input is being ignored in such a way that nobody has any faith in this city council to do anything beyond give more subsidies to people that don't need it. It is a disgrace in a city where we have more than 2/3 of our school children living in poverty. Absolutely disgraceful, and it puts us as the laughingstock of Maryland, and everyone knows that who is watching this. So let's call it out for what it is. Corporate welfare and special privileged treatment for the good old boys of Salisbury, and nothing more. It's a disgrace.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, the agenda was not changed at 3 p.m. on Friday. This item was originally on the agenda that was pushed out. The agenda was not changed. I'm not sure.
It was never changed.
This item was on the agenda when it was originally published on Thursday, correct, Ms. English?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Right. Mike Perunsky, City of Salisbury resident. So I just wanted to give a couple cliff notes here on the park rules ordinance that I found that I just want to bring attention to. The first one is hours of operation. This is a major point of discussion among all parks agencies. How do we determine appropriate hours of operation? Dusk to dawn is the commonly used hours of operation. Now, I talked with Gary Collier at the town of Ocean City about this because they have similar issues that we have in terms of people being at the park late at night or homeless, unhoused residents using the park to basically try to find a place with some shelter. And and they landed on 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. We can use 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And another reason why I bring this issue up is because if you go to the city park in 2 different locations, there's signs up restricting parking, not within the dusk to dawn time window, but they have 2 separate times in 2 separate locations of the park, but we don't have those kind of signs in other areas of the park where people could park. So it's kind of, we sort of, when we look at these, this is the kind of thing that our committee really thinks about is like, we see the signs are posted, they have different information on them, but the signage posted isn't consistent across the city park, which is the most popular park in the city of Salisbury. But we have to remember there's other parks too. So I just want to bring that to your attention for consideration. I think that is definitely an item that we thought about significantly. Another one I wanted to bring attention to is the item of firearms. As a committee, we strongly do not, we want to make sure that the language reflected in the rules and regulations makes clear that the city bans firearms from city parks. That would include people with wear-carry permits, and I think that's just a common sense thing. You're not allowed to discharge a firearm in city limits, but let's make it clear that we strongly discourage and actually we ban the wear-carry of firearms in city parks. Now, look, I'm all about gun rights. I think plenty of people, nearly everyone in this community either hunts or knows someone who hunts. I smoked deer, I smoked venison this past weekend, so I'm a strong supporter of firearms, but at the same time, I think there's an appropriate time and place for them. And I don't think that includes our city parks. They're adjacent to neighborhoods, frequently are used by school groups for field trips. And then, Ms. Boucher, I've got a legal review here in the National Rec and Parks Association publication that thoroughly describes the legal justification for restricting firearms in city parks. Another one, just to go through this really quick, the highlights here. We recommended the inclusion of an indecent conduct or harassment policy. And I just have that here. It's just from Montgomery County Parks. We got some other good stuff in here. I've got a very detailed description of a permitting process from the Capital Area Parks Agency and Montgomery County Parks. And that would really give city staff some cover if they were ever in a position to deny someone a permit. And I also think it really details the liabilities associated with obtaining a permit. If someone is injured at an event where the city issued a permit, we need to really figure out who's liable for that. Did they trip on a branch and break their arm, or did the permit holder not adequately prepare the site for their event? I think that's really important for us to really dive down on. And, I don't think it's fair to put city staff in a position where they don't have adequate policy behind their decision making. And then another quick note is we have animals, a section on animals. I think really we need to detail dog park rules in the animals section, and I'm not going to continue to take up everyone's time, but we can follow up at some point down the road. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, and we would love to invite you back when this comes to sort of explain you and your committee's comments further. So thank you, but thank you for taking 2 times to underscore some of your comments and your suggestions when it comes to this particular resolution.
President, if I may, I misspoke and said that we were going to talk about it at the May meeting. I meant to say the June meeting. The May meeting has already passed, so it'll be in June. But I was taking copious notes when Mike was talking. We'll make sure we get a thorough review and further consideration of the June meeting. That may push us past the next June 9th work session, because this meeting, I think, is at the very beginning, so we'd probably be looking at resurfacing this, if we're ready, the June 23rd work session.
Thank you.
June 16th. I don't know if we make it. I don't know if we'll ever make it. Okay.
There is no meeting
Let's
on
get
the
it right.
23rd.
Yes. 2nd, 16th, 2nd, 9th, and 16th, but
all these
special
random days.
Yes. think budget.
Yeah.
Yes. Apologies. Anyone else wishing to give public comment on the above items?
Okay, first of all, Lynn Bratton, and I still live in the city of Salisbury also. I do think having informational sessions is fabulous. I think one of our city council members has asked many times about something about Carroll Street, and I think to have a forum on what's happening with our streets and Project Zero and all of that stuff would be wonderful to have as an open meeting on the agenda, on a work session. But it seems as though, and I've owned a lot of houses over my 40-some years as a rental client advocate, most of them being in the affordable price ranges, to the point that some people actually, during the COVID, actually said I was one of the lowest rate people they knew of. But everything that we seem to be hearing here always seems to come back to the central business district. The 5 of you that are representative on this council were all elected from the entire city, and you represent like the entire broad space. There's a lot of development going on in the city. It's not just in the central business district. So I was kind of hoping to hear from the Bigland Park people and the people that are out on Snow Hill Road and what's going on Nanticoke Way and any of them that are still in the city. I mean, those are still city-owned, infrastructurally taxed places, I think, right? I mean, I think so. So maybe in the future, if we do another version, like ×2, round 2, how about if we reached out to the people that have projects going on, Ocean Breeze, Ocean Bay, the thing where they cut down all the trees on Bigland, and you know, people just have questions, and I think what we did tonight has value. I'm not upset about it at all. Put that one in your corner. And let's expand that idea. Let's go and get all the developers and just do an update, because there's a lot of stuff being built. We won't have many watermelon fields or tomato fields this year for people to glean at the end of a season, because it's all being construction. There's pipes and there's mounds of dirt, and it's everywhere. And I'm quite honestly curious as to what exactly is being built. How many units? Where is everybody going to live? And number one, what's the impact going to be? Ms. Blake, you're involved in the school system, so you see it firsthand with the homelessness and the poverty and the overcrowding and the creating of discipline issues that all that creates. What is the impact going to be on our infrastructure of schools, police, fire, being able to have enough doctors to take care of everybody, the amount of space we have in the hospitals. I mean, there's so many trickle-down effects of development that I just think we need to really talk about it as a city council and not just worry about CBD, what's going on in downtown Salisbury's central business district. So let's expand our horizons, people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment on any of the above items? Hearing none, we'll pivot to the administration comments. I don't think Mayor Taylor has stepped out, so Mr. Kitzrow, if you want to speak for administration tonight.
I'm going to get twice as much time.
I don't know, time starts now.
Safe Streets for All. I was going to have a more detailed update today. We did have a conference call with the Department of Transportation last week to give us more guidelines. They have reset the clock, so we do get 5 years from when we sign our agreement, but there's been a modified agreement that we need to work through with them. We have to the end of next week to submit our revised agreement to them. There's some changes that came down from the federal level, so we're working through that. I will give a teaser. We are going to be reducing our scope and our ask. One of the big items that's being removed is Carroll Street. As you all know, we did a modified proposal for Carroll Street, so the funding that was going to do the original scope and design for Carroll Street, we are not moving forward with. So there will be a reduction in ask. And then some price points have changed on our initial scope from FY22, so we're modifying some of our updated budget considerations. That will be submitted at the end of next week. We have a working on a follow-up with the federal government, a representative from DOT, hopefully this Friday. So at our next meeting on June 9th, I hope to give a pretty comprehensive update on where we are for Safe Streets for All with our grant application and submission, because that will, when approved, that agreement will need to come back before council to be agreed to via resolution. So I just wanted to tease that out. So we can add that, Julie, if you want to, as a discussion item. Also, if we want to do a further development update on kind of some of the other projects that are in and around, we've had a lot of movement. I could invite DID just to kind of do a quick, hey, this is where we are with everything from a construction to a development, number of units. It's up to you if that's something that there's an appetite. We can do that as another conversation. At that same time, we could invite additional developers or representatives to come speak if there's additional conversations. Again, up to you. We could do that. 9th is already a really busy calendar because it's our second reading of council. It's a pretty lengthy agenda, so we could even push that to the 23rd. Totally up to you all. Excuse me, not the 23rd, the 16th.
Thank you.
The 16th will be my last meeting, so bring out the balloons and the whistles and all the fun stuff. But no, that is all I have. Sorry we missed our third Friday. Hopefully people stayed safe. That storm kind of came through pretty quickly, but I appreciate Chief Rampton. We had 125 calls in that 24-hour shift, so awesome job from our public safety officials, and then a field ops team. They deployed resources throughout the community to help with some of the limbs and some of the falling debris and stuff. So really appreciate, once again, the city of Salisbury stepping up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kitzrow. 1, 2, 3. A couple more times we get to hear from you. Great. Council, any updates or comments?
I got a few. First off, yeah, I'm really kind of bummed about not being able to bring the new puppy to the paw prints, but I'm hoping I can maybe sneak her in next time. The first thing I wanted to give a shout out to is Poplar Hill Mansion is having their 50th anniversary gala on Saturday, June 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. It's a pretty big deal. It's 50 years of Poplar Hill Mansion being a museum. You can find the details either on Facebook or on their website, which is poplarhillmansion.org, and there's a little events tab, and if you scroll down, you'll find it where you can buy tickets to it. Hope to see you guys there and come out and support them. Let me see, there was something else that we had going on. Oh, there was going to be, hold on, let me back up here and find it. Oh yeah, and then we've got, this is a little further out, is the National Night Out coming up in August. So that's always a good time and a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that again.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Councilwoman DeShiel.
Two things. I was privileged to attend, and Michelle and I shared this experience. Last week, National Police Week, the Memorial Day, where they they're keeping in the forefront those that lost their lives in our area. And nationwide, the numbers of losses for the police department. What was unique about this one is that the Salisbury City Police and the Sheriff's Department both collaborated. And you saw so much support from both organizations. In addition to, I got a tour of the new sheriff's facility. It's amazing. And the other thing is, please be aware when you look twice, if you see signs around now, it's motorcycle safety awareness is going on right now. We had someone that Councilwoman Jackson knew well from the Thunder Guards, who lost his life recently on a motorcycle. So if you see the signage out there or know people that do ride motorcycles, keep reinforcing, look twice, because motorcyclists also have families as well. So it's a nice promo from the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeShiel. Council Vice President, any comments?
A few, maybe. I did miss the opportunity to take all my dogs down. I have four. And I had several people helping me because we're doing some training. We need a couple different people, but that was a big night that we missed out on. So it was very disappointing. But anyhow, we got over it. We got over it with ice cream, so that was good. Okay, so a couple things I want to remind people of. About 5 years ago, there was a big presentation by IOT at the time regarding the Beekman Park Drive project. And as you can see, by the time you clear a lot to do the development, it's years. It's years in the making. I think he was working on that project probably 5 or 6 years prior. And took everything, the financing, the permitting, all that, get that up and going. And recently, there's 40 single-family homes coming to that area. There was a big effort to educate the community at that time about having 2 entrance exits for fire safety. The plans initially called for just 1 in that area, but I think I know that there's another entrance and exit, 1 Beekman Park, and then there's also one on Shoemaker. So that was talked about at that time. We could have an update if needed. Also, DID has done several presentations on projects citywide. District 5 does have the most development, I believe. It's always had the most development. And people call me all the time and ask me. I can certainly have DID come back again and go through the line items. But they have done that frequently in the past, at least since I've been here in my tenure. So the other point is that my remark regarding that there's hundreds of people that are wrapped around different types of all these projects. And there's one expert and hundreds of experts. And also thousands of people that support it. We have Tidal Health. And I've mentioned this too before, Tidal Health. We have the university. We have Greater Salisbury. We have the business group downtown. We have I don't even have my list here tonight, but because we have presented it so many times. Thousands of people have signed petitions for the projects. These projects have been talked about and for over 50 years. These are the things that have been talked about by not just this council, not just this mayor, not just this, but for 50 years to make sure that we continue and make sure that Salisbury thrives. And we're getting into the future now. Everyone wants to contain Salisbury as a small little city. We're not a little city anymore. Not anymore. And this is planning for the future. And in order for us to thrive, and we've talked about this many times, we have to develop and grow in those prospective areas. And I think that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I won't belabor this any longer. We've been here for quite some time, but thank you all for coming and commenting. And I'll just round out with 2 things here. And one is, the purpose, behind this item being here is to not blind, I stated at the beginning, and I told each person who was a part of this discussion that it was not to sway it in one way, shape, or form. It is to merely have a discussion, get the updates so that everyone's privy to. We've learned some things from different communities, so thank you for sharing that. I wrote some extensive notes there on that particular item, so thank you for sharing that I'm going to ask some questions about. But I learned some things here that, again, we've been talking about since I've been on council here these 16 or 17 months. There's been so many side conversations and transparency. I want the conversation to be here. Purposely, we're going to go back and have these discussions with city staff, city leadership to figure out where's the onus? What can we do? The reason why you're not hearing from different developments on Beekman in District 1 is because, and I have the opportunity to sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission, those projects, they're approved and then they move forward and construction happens. These particular projects that, again, it happens being in the Central Business District, they've been approved, they sit, and it's like, what happens? So I just want to know, despite the comments that have been said, the sway is not with Deshaun on any particular. I am, to be honest, tired of talking about the same things. We just approved a budget that we discussed a lot of things on, and I think there should be, these rooms should be filled with the items that we approved and that we added money for. Summer youth programs for students that haven't been in play for years in this city. No one has come and talked about that. We approved those items. Getting additional cars to our police force. We had one person come and talk about that, in which I was surprised by. Approving apparatuses for our fire department to improve, to get staff, grant funding that we're approving, make sure we have staff for these developments. These are the conversations we should be having, not on these particular projects that I am so tired of talking about. That is not what we should be spending our time on. It's to just, and again, here to discuss, figure out how and move forward. We're not, at least myself, I'm not swayed one way or the other. It's how to move forward and how do we avoid liability not being on the city, despite my personal opinions. And no one is padding pockets or swaying one way at all. So I take offense to that for those comments to be put towards me. And this was an item that I knew, and I had many conversations with everyone. We're going to have this conversation respectfully, because that is what I wanted, and that is what I thought would be best here today. My grandfather tells me before every council meeting, Deshaun, you will make half the people happy half the time, and I understand that. But still, I walked into this meeting going, this is going to be good. This is what people want to hear. And to have the comments, it hurts. It honestly hurts, because we've been having conversations. We need to have these conversations here, make decisions, and move forward. November 2023 makes 2 years, and we have not made progress with any one thing. We've cleaned a couple ponds. We've taken debris out of some streets. We've moved some tires. That's not progress. I've lost hair. No, but we need to seriously spend our efforts on things that truly matter. Someone stated we have 2/3 of our students that live in poverty. What are we doing for that? We have 9 families that the city spends money for, and we house. No one knew. And so we are spending and having conversations on, with new development that we are supporting, how can we transition those families from temporary housing to permanent housing? That's what I spend my time on. That's what we spend our time on. And we're moving forward on that. They're not making headlines. I don't care if they do, but that's what we're doing, not this. I've been quiet about that for too long, and it upsets me. In other news, thank you all to the fire department for what you do on the 4th Wednesday, usually of every month. Those are free CPR and first aid classes. It doesn't hit home until it hits home. I got a call Saturday night from good friends of mine who I consider to be my nieces and nephews. They are 3-year-old twins. The boy twin went into a pool and came out and almost lost his life. But thankfully his father is CPR trained, and his life was spared that day and was airlifted to Wilmington and DuPont, a hospital there. That call could have ended so much differently. I don't have kids of my own, you all know that, but I absolutely adore those little ones. So please, we have tons of free CPR classes. Take the class, know how to save someone's life. We hear it all the time, but that call could have been so much differently. I'm so glad he's home now, probably annoying his parents, but he's home now. But his life was literally spared because his father continuously worked and saved his life with CPR. So folks, get CPR trained. I will end on that. Thank you all for supporting. We look forward to continuing these conversations. This meeting is now adjourned.